Hey y'all, so this is the last time they asked a balance sheet question in 2016. This is what I think y'all are going to be asked because it's really hard to you can't just Google this because of the different numbers. You're going to have to know how to work it out. And that, of course, is why I think you can Google the relationship between interest rates and bond prices, right? So they're going to try to minimize the chances of y'all cheating. So one way to do that is with this. This is a really good one. It's hard. My students had a very difficult time with this, and I'll talk about why that is. But I really, hopefully, y'all watch this video a couple times to really maybe understand it and send me questions if you have it. All right, so we have our balance sheet from First Superior Bank. The left equals the right, all nice and neat. Equity is 0. We got a demand deposit of 2,000. Loans are 18. And here we go, reserves. Most of the students jumped on this and thought this was required reserves. It is not, okay? It is not. And so let's really think about this for a second. Remember, reserves by itself is two things: excess reserves plus required reserves. You remember, reserves by itself is two things: excess plus required. Well, how much of that $200 is excess and how much is required? We don't know until we start reading the problem. Required reserve ratio is 10%. It's always based on the demand deposit, only on the demand deposit. So the demand deposit's 2,000. 10% of 2,000 is 200. So if total reserves is 200 and required reserves is 200, that means excess reserves, it has to be 0. And so already people were thrown for a loop, but they subtly got through this because a lot of them misread this as just required reserves, which they were wrong, but they would have ended up with the right answer. Remember, reserves by itself is excess plus required. Let's get into our problems. What is the dollar value of new loans that First Superior Bank can make? So this is where students messed up. They said $1,800. But notice that is wrong. Remember, I've told y'all that anything next to loans, that money is gone. It's been loaned out. It's gone. Okay? So what is the dollar value of new loans that First Superior can make? Well, they have $0 in excess reserves. So the answer is 0. Why? Because excess reserves is 0. And that is your explanation. That's it. Nice and neat. Sorry, get out of room. We put a $sign there. Hopefully y'all see that. They've already loaned out all their excess reserves. It's gone. Loans are $1,800. That money is gone. Okay? Let's look at the next question. It's tricky with the wording. We got to pay attention to the wording here. Mr. Smith now deposits $100 of cash in demand deposit account of First Superior. Calculate the maximum amount of new loans that First Superior can make. So we add 100 here, and of course we add 100 here. 10% goes to required reserves because of our reserve ratio. And that means $90 goes into, excess reserves. So basically, because of this $100 deposit, they can now loan out $90. Remember, excess reserves is the amount you can loan out. So now we use our money multiplier. All right. Actually, we don't use our money multiplier. I jumped down too quick. It said calculate the maximum amount of just new loans this bank right here can make. Just that bank. Well, the maximum amount of new loans that they can bank because of the $100 deposit is $90. So I would show this right here as your calculation of how you got to 90, right? Just breaking it down into required and excess. But it's just First Superior Bank. And I'll show you how that is different from C and D. Alrighty, so here we go. Let's look and see. As a result of the $100 cash deposit, calculate the maximum change over time in the banking system. So it's not, so it's, since it's saying the banking system or overall money supply, this is when you going to use a money multiplier of 1 over R. This one was particular to just First Superior Bank. Okay, so we do this. Loans, so we go 1 over 0.1 times our excess reserves. So the maximum change in loans would be 900. Boom. Good to go right there. But for demand deposit, if they're asked about demand deposit, we use the money multiplier. But since it's asking demand deposit, we don't take out our required reserves. So we do it by the full 100. So that answer is 1,000. So be careful. They're asking change in the money supply or the change in loans. Same thing. Same thing. How we do this. Demand deposit, if they ask about that, you do it by the amount of the deposit, which was $100. So as a result of the Mr. Smith's $100 cash deposit, calculate the maximum change over time in the money supply. This problem and this problem are the same. Not fair. A lot of my students, they came back, they hated this. Why would they ask the same question twice? Because they can. They're AP Central, and they want to see if you know that they're this different wording, but the same. Maximum change in the banking system with loans and the money supply. Exact same question. So we go 1 over 0.1 times 90, and we get the same answer, of course, as C1. Different wording, same question. And that's what made it difficult. Got it? All right, all good stuff right here. Let's move to the last problem. Provide one reason why the actual change in the money supply can be smaller than the maximum change. Now, we assume when we do this money multiplier right here, we assume that all excess reserves are being loaned out. So you'll see problems on a previous practice problems with this. They'll say assuming no excess reserves. That means all excess reserves have been loaned out. But sometimes banks don't loan out all of their excess reserves. Thus, the money multiplier would be smaller. That's why the question says the maximum change. The most it could change is 900. Most of the time it's less than that because banks don't loan out all of their excess reserves. But in this problem, it assumes all excess reserves are loaned out. All right. So, great problem, tough problem for a majority of American students, even my students. I had students who made a 5 on this for me who bombed this question right here. But I had one student who rocked it and is now the president of the business fraternity at Georgia right now. I think Alex Burgess. Anyway, good for him. Smart kid. He actually has an internship to be an investment banker. So this is the path many of y'all are on, which is wonderful. All right, so this is good. Please send me any questions that you might have about this. This is 2016. Yesterday we did 2012, and the day before that, 2011. Listen to these videos. I'll be sending you reminds about this. Thanks.